Only the chosen can survive, pass this devastating test or lose your fate forever. An eerie fog rolled into the sleepy town of Millfield, choking the streets with an unsettling stillness. It was a morning like no other. Locals whispered tales of a curse that had taken hold of their lives, a dark shadow that promised chaos. Shadows twisted and turned in the corners of every alley, leaving only the bravest to venture into the unknown. The air crackled with tension, electric with fear, as an ancient clock tower struck noon, its toll echoing through the fog, calling the chosen ones to face a fate they could hardly fathom. Under the watchful eyes of the townsfolk, rumors flooded in about a hidden test that promised a shocking fate for those who dared to challenge it. Each person's heart raced as whispers spun tales of lost souls and eerie disappearances, those who attempted the test yet never returned. A woman, her hair tangled and wild, darted through the crowd, breathless with terror. "They say once you begin you can't turn back," she exclaimed, eyes wide, panic clawing at her voice. A child peeked from behind his mother, clutching her leg, sensing the gravity of fear that stuck to everyone like the fog. As the tension thickened, so did curiosity. What was this test? Every corner held a special dread mingled with hope, each breath feeling like a countdown. "What if we are not chosen?" murmured a man with trembling hands, glancing around as if the very air might whisper answers. The town gathered, hearts pounding with a mix of dread and excitement, eyes skyward as if seeking clarity. Then came the crucial moment: who would step forth and risk it all? The bizarre challenge loomed ahead, wrapped in a web of mystery that seemed both inviting and horrifying at once. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. Clarity danced elusively at the edges of dread, as the townsfolk stood frozen, waiting for someone to break the spell. Suddenly, the crowd gasped. A figure emerged, cloaked in a tattered black cape, face hidden in shadow. Tantalizing shivers shot down spines as the stranger raised a finger, beckoning those brave enough to step forward. A voice, smooth yet chilling, echoed through the air: "Only the chosen can pass this test. Fear is your greatest enemy." The weight of those words hung heavy, stifling the crowd's breath. Would anyone dare to follow? The answers lie hidden among the fog and fate. The silence pulsed, and time stretched. Who would step forward? Would they live or perish? The crowd leaned in, hungry for action but fearing the unknown. As the stranger's gaze swept over the spectators, tension crackled, alive and vivid. What choice would define them? The answer lingered, elusive, as dusk painted the sky. The question of bravery loomed, but courage often treads the line of madness. Were they ready to confront their fate? Eyes darted nervously within the crowd, an electric charge gathering like storm clouds. As the cloaked figure studied them, the air grew heavier, wrapping them in a cocoon of dread. Someone in the back shouted, "I'll do it." A ripple of gasps surged through the gathering, akin to a stone dropped in water, creating waves of shock that rolled outwards. A young woman, barely more than a girl really, stepped forward. Her hands shook at her sides, but her eyes burned with a ferocity that belied her fear. "I'm chosen. I will face whatever this is." The crowd parted, tangled emotions swirling in the thick fog, as she approached the mysterious figure, emboldened by sheer will. The stranger leaned closer, the shadows lifting, revealing a face that seemed an echo of every horror story ever whispered. Hollow cheeks and sunken eyes contacted hers for just a moment, yet that brief connection suffused the air with a cold, unspeakable fear. So be it, the cloaked figure murmured, voice curling around each word. But remember, only the chosen can survive. With that, the figure extended a gnarled hand, and out from the depths of its drapery emerged a shining amulet, glistening under the dim light. It radiated an otherworldly aura, swirling with colors both beautiful and repulsive, beckoning her closer. The young woman reached for it, hesitating as whispers of warnings filled her ears. "Don't touch it. It's cursed." Someone yelled, but it was too late. Fingers enclosed around the amulet, and as her skin touched the cold metal, a dreadful gasp escaped her lips. The ground beneath her trembled, the very fabric of reality seemed to quiver in response. The crowd's panic swelled, eyes wide with horror, but none could pull away or alter the unfolding fate. An ear-splitting crack resounded as the fog thickened into a swirling vortex around her, pulling her inward as if the town had suddenly turned into a dark abyss. Murmurs transformed into desperate cries. "What is happening? Someone help her." Within the rushing chaos, the girl began to whisper something. It was melodic and haunting, like a spell that called every creature in the mist. The whispers grew louder, all around them, drowning out their fears, coaxing them into a trance. "Fear is your greatest enemy," she echoed, her voice distorting as if the denizens of the fog had laid claim to her soul. Each syllable twisted the reality around them. A rush of shadows erupted from the depths, wriggling like tendrils seeking warmth in the fog. They caught around her limbs, yet instead of succumbing to their grip, she grinned, as if embracing an unseen power. The well of darkened energy began to seep into the crowd, a harbinger of something malevolent awakening. "Run!" Someone screamed, but they remained paralyzed, entranced by the eerie dance of light and darkness surrounding the girl. Suddenly, with a brilliant flash, the shadows receded, and just as abruptly, everything fell silent. The girl had vanished, the amulet now lying quietly on the ground, pulsing softly like a subdued heartbeat. In that eerie stillness, dread wrapped around them, squeezing tighter, as questions flooded their minds. Had she passed? Or had the shadows claimed their first victory? Uncertainty loomed ominously, hanging thick in the air like the ever-present fog. Who was next to answer the call? An insidious whisper crawled into their thoughts. In a town haunted by darkness, who would dare tempt fate? The clock tower struck once more, echoing through the eerie stillness, as the ground trembled anew. The spectacle over, the thrumming anticipation filled the air like an electric current, urging them toward madness. What awaited them next? Would courage yield rewards, or would it unleash horrors yet unseen? Whispers swept through the crowd like a chilling wind, mingling with the fog that clung to every surface. Eyes shifted from the spot where the girl had stood to the discarded amulet, its rhythmic pulsation a mocking heartbeat. A man took a hesitant step forward, torn between bravery and paralyzing dread, his heart thudding wildly against his ribs. What if someone else picks it up?" he muttered, voice quivering. Fear burned in his chest, but so did curiosity. What power lay in that amulet? Could it be real? The shadowed figure stood silent, observing, spectating as a predator always does, assessing its next choice. "Enough!" shouted a woman at the front, fiercely pushing back her hair. "We can't let fear drive us. We owe it to her. We need to find a way to bring her back." Her defiance splintered through the crowd like an arrow shot through silence. As her words struck home, the crowd began to stir. Some stepped forward, eyes glossed over by the thrill of adventure, while others remained rooted, clutching their loved ones. "You think you can bring her back? You think you can just walk into the void?" A man sneered, his voice dripping with cynicism. "That thing doesn't give back what it takes." The woman glared at him, determination flaring in her eyes. "We want to know if we don't try." She shot back fiercely. Are we so willing to give up on her? The air buzzed with unease, threads of urgency woven tightly together, each heartbeat echoing the clash of resolve and despair. With every tense second that dragged on, the crowd's emotions roared like a tempest, hearts racing, breaths held. Someone shouted again, "What if we all touched it together?" The proposal hung in the air, a repugnant thought twisted by desperation. If the shadows want a sacrifice, let it be all of us. Fear spiraled into a heady cocktail of lost hope and courage. Desperation surged through their veins, igniting a fire they thought had flickered out. The thought of standing strong together was intoxicating, against the lurking darkness surrounding them. Before they could second-guess themselves, the woman took a step toward the amulet, her hand reaching out. On the count of 3, she yelled. 1, 2. The heavy tension filled the air, crackling with anticipation as if the very sky held its breath. 3. Simultaneously, hands stretched toward the pulsing artifact, trembling not just from fear but a deep, primal urge for connection. Just as their fingertips grazed its surface, the world shook violently beneath them. A blinding light enveloped the square, illuminating all faces caught in its grip and casting shadows elongated and ethereal. The shadows in the fog danced, twisting and writhing, howling like enraged beasts awakened from slumber. Reality warped, the ground beneath their feet fracturing as old, unseen forces stirred to life. Voices screamed, mingling with the clamor of the arriving storm. "It's too much." A howl erupted from within, piercing through the chaos. The cloaked figure advanced, wreathed in darkness, now closer than ever, its hollow eyes gleaming with otherworldly hunger. "Only the chosen can survive," it hissed ominously, driving fear deep into their cores. Caught between the uncertainty of fate and the claustrophobic grasp of the encroaching shadows, the crowd felt hope rippling behind their fear. In that fleeting moment, an understanding formed. They were all chosen to confront the darkness together, but was it enough? As the shadows converged upon them and the light consumed their world, a question remained: what awaited them on the other side, salvation or the ultimate doom? Screams echoed into the night, blending with the wind, leaving just a whisper of uncertainty. What line would they cross when faced with the abyss? Would they find bravery, or would they sink into the horror that awaited them? The vortex had claimed its first victims, and the deeper truth lay hidden within the darkness that beckoned them forward. The blinding light engulfed them, cocooning the crowd in a veil of brilliance that pushed back the encroaching shadows. In that moment, time lost all meaning. Pulsing waves of energy rippled outward, accompanied by a sound that felt both like a roar and a whisper, echoing through the fabric of reality itself. Then, silence. Like the eye of a storm, a heavy calm filled the space as if the chaos had ceased to exist. One by one, the group blinked against the brightness, disoriented, each heart still pounding in the aftermath of their collective leap into the unknown. As the light faded, they found themselves in a strange landscape, a dreamlike realm stretched infinitely before them, its colors warped and wrong. Vibrant hues danced, swirling together, yet the oppressive weight of dread clung to them like fog. The ground beneath their feet felt alive, pulsating, breathing, reflecting the rhythm of their racing hearts. "Is everyone here?" The woman who had led them forward peered around, her voice trembling yet firm. Murmurs filled the air as faces turned, wide-eyed and bewildered. But something shifted. The shadows that had haunted them were not gone. They lingered at the edges of this place, lurking just beyond the strange colors, watching with soulless gazes. Each pair of eyes reflected a fear so profound, it seemed to grasp at their very essence. "What is this place?" a young man gasped, glancing down at the ground beneath him, which shimmered like quicksand. Are we dead?" "No!" she shouted, tightening her grip on the amulet that now glowed softly in her palm. "We're not dead. We're somewhere else. We need to move." The crowd air's energy pulsed with mixed instincts of urgency and terror. Yet, as they began to shuffle forward, a chilling laughter echoed through the eerie expanse. The cloaked figure, now distanced but still terrifyingly present, emerged from swirling mist. "Welcome, chosen ones. To claim victory, you must pass the trials of the forgotten." "Trials?" someone whispered, memories of the girl who had fallen flooding back, choking their optimism. "What do you mean?" The figure waved a hand, and the swirling colors momentarily aligned, revealing a twisted maze of shadows and light. "One by one, you shall face your deepest fears. Only those who survive will be granted power to alter fate or allow it to consume you." A murmur broke free from the crowd, panic surfacing anew. "This isn't right. We can't just silence." The figure hissed. "Do you think yourselves worthy? You must choose. Face the trials, or become shadows yourself and be lost." He stepped aside, and the maze flickered, shifting like waves on the ocean, inviting yet foreboding. Every wavering motion seemed to beckon them deeper into darkness. "What if we refuse?" someone shouted defiantly, though their voice trembled. "Then you shall become relics of despair," the figure replied. "Your souls forfeit to the void." One step, then another, the crowd's resolve wavering like candle flames in the wind. They looked at each other, searching for courage. Could they really do this? Were they ready to expose their darkest secrets, to plummet into the shadows of their souls? With uncertainty riding in the air, one voice rose above the noise, the woman who had sparked this madness. "Together, we can face whatever comes. As long as we hold on to each other, we'll find our way." But just as she finished speaking, a chilling scream reverberated through the air, echoing from deep within the maze. Someone vanished into the shadows, swallowed whole by the darkness. Panic reigned as realization struck. Their desires for unity pitted against the harrowing truth. They were no longer just a group, they were now individuals facing the unknown. The cloaked figure smiled darkly. "Prove yourselves or become part of the darkness forever." And just like that, the trials began, each step forward fraught with uncertainty, each choice a haunting echo of what awaited them. Would they emerge victorious, or would they lose themselves to the void? What awaited them within the first trial, and who else might be lost in the hours to come? The labyrinth beckoned, and their fate hung in the balance. The moment hung thick with tension, the chilling scream still reverberating in their ears. No one dared to speak, too aware of their collective heartbeat. The cloaked figure seemed to thrive on their fear, eyes glinting through the fabric of the shadows that clung to him. "Step forward," he commanded, his voice a low growl. "Who will be first to confront their darkness?" A few seconds felt like hours. The crowd exchanged glances, weighing the prospect of facing what was hidden inside them against the alternative, becoming nothing. "I'll go," a voice finally broke through the haze. It was Jake, a tall young man, his face twisted in a mix of resolve and terror. He stepped forward, the ground pulsing beneath him as if alive. "Someone has to go first." "Brave," the figure cooed, the corners of his mouth curling into a sinister smile. "But courage alone will not save you. Let us see what you're running from." With a wave of his hand, the maze twisted again, opening a passageway swathed in shadows with a glimmer of light far, far away. Jake took a deep breath, his steps slow and deliberate. As he entered the maze, silence fell like a stone. "Do not lose hope," the woman said, her voice like a lighthouse piercing through fog. They heard her, but her words felt thin against what lay ahead. Jake's heart thundered as he moved further in, the vivid colors warping into flickers of black and white. He paused, every breath echoing, the walls shifting almost ominously around him. Suddenly, A figure emerged from the shadows, a younger version of himself, brimming with happiness, playing in the grass beneath the sun. "Jake!" the boy exclaimed, laughter bright and pure. "Remember the day at the lake? We had the best time." A tidal wave of nostalgia crashed over him, bittersweet and sharp. But then, the scene morphed. The sunlight dulled, replaced by storm clouds, and the boy began to cry. "You lied. You promised I wouldn't drown. Why did you leave me?" Jake stumbled back, thoughts racing. The day the accident happened. He'd been too scared to jump in after his little brother. It crushed him, the guilt swept over him like a suffocating wave. "Face me," the boy demanded, fear replaced by anger, eyes blazing. "You're a coward. You let me die." He felt his heart tighten. The need to scream and run surged, but he fought against it. This was his trial, his moment. With a surge of emotion, he stepped forward. "I didn't mean to," he shouted back, voice trembling as he struggled against the memories. "I was scared. I've lived with it every day." "Then face it. Face your fear." The boy challenged, morphing again, now a creature made of darkness, its eyes void of light. It lunged, the walls pulsing in rhythm with Jake's terror. "Jake!" the others shouted from the maze's entrance, their voices straining against the darkness. "You can do it. Fight back." With their encouragement cascading through him, he clenched his fists, a fierce resolve igniting within. This was not just an echo of his past. It was an opportunity. "No!" he roared, heart pounding. His memories danced like fierce flames in his mind. "I won't let you control me." As he shouted, a blinding light erupted from the amulet he clutched, resonating with his newfound courage. The darkness began to retreat, the creature shrieked, its form weakening, but just as he thought he'd emerge victorious, the shadows stirred, reshaping, a deeper darkness seeping in from the edges of reality. This wasn't merely a test of one. "Jake!" a voice echoed through the twisting corridors. "We need you." If this was just the first trial, what horrors lay beyond? And what would happen to the rest if he failed? The stakes had never felt so profound, the maze pulsed ominously, a foreboding tremor of shadow and light. Would the next trial reveal even greater horrors? Jake's breath hitched, his fate and theirs hung in the balance, an invisible thread stretching taut. What challenge awaited them next? The darkness roared as if alive, consuming every flicker of light. The shriek of the creature twisted into whispers, mocking him, a swirling vortex of despair that clawed at Jake's resolve. He could feel the oppressive weight of dread tightening around him, squeezing his chest like a vice. He had won the first battle, but now he stood at the precipice of something much deeper. "Are you ready for round 2? The cloaked figure's voice slid through the air, smooth and haunting. "Your friends are waiting. But it seems, Jake, they will not be as fortunate as you were." Panic shot through Jake. He had let his past haunt him, but now it threatened to ensnare those he cared for. He had to move. Had to act. With every ounce of strength left, he shouted. "What do I need to do?" The maze swelled, responding to his plea. A section before him crumbled and reshaped itself, the walls morphing into a new path. Shadows danced and flickered ominously, teasing him about the uncertainty ahead. Despite the fear, desperation and determination ignited a fire within him. "Follow the light," echoed a fragile voice from behind. It was Chloe, the girl who had spoken earlier. Her conviction was unwavering despite the terror. "We'll be right here." Stepping boldly into the new corridor, Jack realized that the light was not just a beacon, it pulsed in time with his heartbeat, synchronizing with the rhythm of fear and hope from the others outside the maze. With every step, he felt their connection grow stronger. But would it be enough? The corridor opened, revealing a swirling vortex of light and dark, each swinging wildly as if arguing over supremacy. Jake hesitated, feeling the pull of the shadows tug him back. He forced himself to breathe steadily. "You've confronted your past, now face what you fear today," he muttered, steeling himself against the ever-growing storm. In the center of the vortex stood a figure clad in darkness, indistinguishable yet vaguely familiar. A face slipped into focus this time. It was Chloe, her expression a twisted mix of anguish and fury. "You think strength comes from this?" she spat, her voice an unsettling echo. "You think you can save us?" "No!" Jake shouted, fierce defiance igniting his words. "I can't do it alone. But I won't abandon you." As he spoke, the vortex flared violently, and in his desperation, Jake lunged forward, trying to break through the disorienting spiral. With every ounce of courage he could muster, he reached for her. "I believe in you. In us." For a fleeting moment, Chloe's eyes widened, then filled with understanding, and the shadows retreated slightly. A brief glimmer of light broke through, casting the floor in hues of gold. "Belief," she echoed, uncertainty lacing her voice. "Believe that there is hope." In that moment, Jake realized this was not just a fight for survival, it was a fight for unity. Their connections could bind the darkness and illuminate their souls. "Together we can." The darkness surged forward, slamming against him like a tsunami. All at once, the myriad of emotions, fear, hope, guilt consumed him. Pain erupted as visions of their past played in his mind, laughter shared, dreams chased, fears faced. He felt her hand clasp his, warmth cutting through the chill. It was as if her belief filled the hollows, fortifying both their spirits. They were stronger together. "Hold on, Jake!" Chloe shouted, the light engulfing them in a cocoon of brilliance. "We'll break through together." But just as the shadows recoiled, a deeper rumble echoed. The cloaked figure reappeared, his eyes glimmering with untold malice. "You think this is over?" "Each trial reveals more than you're prepared to handle." Everything lurched forwards, chaos swirling around them. What did this next trial entail? Would it shatter them or forge an unbreakable bond? The question loomed heavy, palpable as the air grew thick with uncertainty. Jake's grip tightened around Chloe's hand. The battle had only just begun, and darkness awaited just out of sight. What more would they have to confront? The air crackled with tension as the next trial loomed like a storm cloud on the horizon. Jake felt it in his bones, a foreboding chill that threaded through his veins. He stared into the swirling chaos, the shadows riding like serpents ready to strike. Chloe's hand was warm, yet the fear radiating off her was like fire, igniting his own anxiety. "Jake, what now?" she whispered, her voice teetering on the edge of control. Before he could respond, the cloaked figure stretched out a hand, and the shadows coalesced. A horrible scream erupted from the void, and a new image emerged. It was a scene from their past, a memory they thought buried deep. Laughter echoed, but it was tainted, warped by the darkness surrounding it. "No, not this." Jake felt his heart race as the scene intensified. It was a summer day, bright and free. They had all been together, alive and unaware of the shadows that lurked just beyond their youthful joys. But in the next heartbeat, the brightness blurred, twisting into a nightmarish landscape. Jake watched helplessly as the happiness shifted to chaos, faces contorted in horror. "Face this memory. Make peace with it." The figure hissed, its voice dripping with malice. Jake snapped his head back to Chloe. "We have to confront it. We can't let this drag us down." Chloe's eyes sparkled with tears, but her determination shone brighter. Together, right? Together. The word echoed in the vortex, inciting something deep within. They stepped forward, pulling each other into the memory with a fierce grip, determined not to let the past destroy them. The scene shifted violently. They were thrust into the middle of a confrontation, voices raised in anger. It was a painful memory, one of betrayal and bitterness. A rift had formed between friends, accusations flying like arrows. Jake felt the weight of guilt descend like a heavy cloak. "Do you remember this?" Jake asked, feeling the words scrape his throat. Chloe nodded, her expression becoming a mixture of sorrow and strength. "Yes. But we've grown since then. We can't be held back." The dissonance in the air began to vibrate, echoing their minds, threatening to tear them apart. Jake took a deep, shuddering breath. "We forgive each other," he shouted, forcing the truth out. "We won't let this break us." This declaration sent shockwaves through the shadows. The shrieks morphed into uncertain gasps. The darkness flickered, pulsing as if responding to their resolve. Chloe gripped his hand tighter, her eyes reflecting the wounds of their shared past. "Jake, I believe in us," she shouted, her voice piercing through the chaos. "We can face this." The cloaked figure's eyes flashed with fury. "Foolishness. You think forgiveness can counter the darkness?" "Yes," Jake replied, feeling a spark ignite within him. "Love and strength can. We'll shatter the chains binding us." As they faced the vortex of memories, their energy shifted. The shadows coiled tighter, but Jake's heartbeat synchronized with Chloe's resolve. They moved forward, intertwining memories of joy with those of pain, weaving a tapestry of who they truly were. But suddenly, a shrill laugh erupted, shaking the very core of their being. "You think this will work? The darkness is ancient and relentless. You've only just begun." A blinding flash of light surged around them, pushing back the shadows, but the cloaked figure's presence loomed larger, more menacing. The energy crackled, fraught with uncertainty. Would their combined hope fracture under this new assault, or would it be the force that obliterated the suffocating dark? Breathless, Jake met Chloe's gaze, fierce, determined, but laced with questions. Each heartbeat echoed a mantra: "Together, we can survive." How would they conquer this trial? Would their bond truly be strong enough, or would the darkness consume them both? The answer loomed, and the vortex of shadows awaited their next move. The ground shifted beneath their feet, spiraling into a void as Jake and Chloe stood their ground. A fierce wind howled, pulling at them like a beast intent on swallowing them whole. The cloaked figure's laughter reverberated through the abyss, slicing through the tension like a knife. "You have no idea what you're up against," it sneered. "The dark is unyielding. The past is never truly past." Jake felt the weight of those words, heavy and suffocating. He wanted to scream, to tear down the walls of uncertainty that threatened to crumble around them. But Chloe's grip steadied him. "Listen, Jake," she said, her voice barely audible above the rising tempest. "We've faced this together already. This isn't just a trial for us, it's a chance to grow even stronger. This darkness feeds on our fears. Let us show it we're not afraid." "Right." He nodded, focusing on her fervor. Every beat of their hearts thudded in sync, a steady rhythm against the chaos. The cloaked figure shimmered, its shadow swirling with anticipation. "Then face the truth," it hissed, and with that, the ground erupted. The world warped and distorted. They plunged into another memory, one soaked in a bewildering haze. This time, It was the day they lost everything. The day a beautiful morning turned into a nightmare. No, Jake gasped as the scene unfolded. He could see the park, full of sunlight. He heard the laughter, the joy, but then he was hit with the jarring shock of screams. A car careened onto the sidewalk, the screeching tires piercing through pleasant sounds. He felt sick, replaying the horror in his mind. "Why are you doing this?" Chloe shouted, her tears now spilling freely down her cheeks. "We're not those scared kids anymore. We're bigger than this pain. Denial will not save you." The shadowy figure jeered. "No!" Jake roared, both for them and himself. "We want to relive this. We didn't know then, but we do now. We can't let that day define us." A surge of adrenaline coursed through him. He dragged Chloe closer, holding tightly to the memory instead of shying away from it. "We remember the love," he said, feeling a warmth inside that began to grow. "We remember the hope. That day, we lost so much, but we also found each other." Chloe chimed in, her voice breaking through the darkness. "Yes. We found our strength in each other. We will carry that forward." Suddenly, a flash of light erupted from their joined hands, bright and almost blinding. The shadows screeched in horror, their form destabilizing, wavering like a candle in a storm. But the figure roared back, its voice now a guttural growl. "You think your love can combat my tenacity? Foolish children. I will tear you apart." The vortex shook violently, and Jake felt the ground slip beneath him. Chloe's eyes widened as the scene warped again, morphing into a torrent of images, moments lost, chances missed, regrets encroaching like a tidal wave. "Hold on!" he yelled, fighting the pull, desperate to keep them from being scattered. "What we have is stronger than this." The air crackled, and for a fleeting instant, Jake saw every laugh, every tear, every memory flickering before him, each one a lifeline. "We're not alone. We're never alone." Then, as if responding to his fearless declarations, the shadows recoiled, twisting and shrieking. The light pulsed stronger, battling against the dark. With a fierce yell, Jake and Chloe plunged deeper into their emotions, every ounce of love they felt throwing them back against the encroaching void. But just as hope surged, a malevolent chuckle echoed, rippling through the air. "You may have battled one shadow, but there are layers upon layers of dark waiting in the wings. What will you do when you face the darkest truth about yourselves?" Fear tightened around Jake's throat. What could be darker than their past? His heart raced, thunderous in his ears, as the vortex screamed in anticipation. They had faced their memories, but what awaited them next would be unfathomable. The darkness shuddered, pulsing with a malevolent energy that twisted around them like a serpent. Time stretched and warped until it felt as though they were suspended in a moment of dread. Jake clenched his fists, the urge to run battling against the instinct to stand his ground. Chloe's fingers tightened around his, grounding him in her presence, and then, the void twisted again, and they felt a sudden drop, like an elevator plunging downwards. A chilling void engulfed them, a silence that felt heavy and alive. Suddenly, they landed with a thud, disoriented. The air smelled damp and ferrous, and the walls that surrounded them seemed to pulse with a heartbeat of its own. Low whispers filled the space, threading through the shadows. Jake squinted, scanning the murky surroundings until the fog cleared just enough for him to see what lay ahead. A room. Dimly lit, it was lined with mirrors, each reflecting not only their forms but also fractured glimpses of their souls, moments of pain and triumph they thought were long buried. Guilt flared in Jake's chest as he spotted a version of Chloe that flickered with loss. She looked small, fragile, as if the weight of their shared past had crushed her spirit. "No!" he shouted, stepping forward. "That's not you. Don't let it take you. It's just a trick, Chloe breathed, determination glimmering in her tear-stained eyes. It's showing our fears, the things we hate about ourselves. She inhaled sharply. But we know it lies. The shadows snickered, swirling around them like a storm waiting to unleash its fury. You think love conquers all? You know nothing of your true selves. A voice reverberated around the chamber, a thundering echo that seemed to merge with the very walls. Jake gritted his teeth. Watch us! He yelled, fighting against the weight of doubt crashing over him. Chloe's steady presence began to radiate warmth, wrapping around them like a shield. As memories shimmered in the mirrors, sharp versions of their greatest failures cut deep his missed opportunities, her crushing loneliness each a shard of shame. But instead of crumbling, they faced each image head-on. Jake recalled the way she smiled, how fiercely they fought for each other. Chloe visualized the moments they held each other up when everything fell apart. One by one, the reflections began to change, flickering from shadows of despair to images of resilience. Suddenly, a new sound erupted, a chorus of laughter, a sound that spiraled out of the mirrors and pulled at the edges of reality. With each joyful note, Jake felt strength sparking in his chest, igniting hope. Look! Chloe pointed. They're us. The parts we thought were lost. They're alive. But then the shadows howled in fury. Fools! You dare challenge the truth? The darkness is not just a part of you, it is the very essence that defines you. As if to emphasize its threat, the darkness roared through the mirrors, distorting their reflections into grotesque caricatures. Jake felt himself wavering, the haunting echo of doubt settling over his heart. Could they escape this twisted trial? Believe in what we are together, Chloe cried, stepping closer to him. Our love can redefine this darkness. A blinding light surged from their hands, merging into a brilliant beam that brightened the whole chamber. The mirrors trembled, disconnecting from the shadow's grasp. But just as the light spread, it flickered and stuttered. Will your love last against the darkest truth? The voice taunted, echoing in the air like a clock ticking down to their final moments. Jake's breath quickened, a daunting question hanging in the air. What was this truth? What if the shadows were only revealing another layer of their fears? Holding on to each other, they prepared for the next step, knowing whatever came next could shatter everything they fought to protect. The light pulsed around Jake and Chloe, vibrant but fragile, as the shadows converged, twisting angrily in the corners of the mirror chamber. The cloaked figure loomed, his eyes twin voids of malice. What will you do when faced with what you truly are? He hissed, voice dripping with satisfaction. I'll show you the truth. Suddenly, the mirrors rippled violently, and the room morphed again. They were thrust into a memory far deeper and darker than the others. The laughter faded, replaced by shouts echoing from a time long past, drowning them in a wash of bitterness. Jake's childhood home materialized before him, a place once filled with warmth now thick with oppressive silence. They stood in front of a door marked "Do Not Enter." Heavy with dread, Jake felt the weight of years pressing down. Not this, he breathed, as shadows whispered secrets he feared might come true. With a trembling hand, the cloaked figure beckoned them closer. Go on. Open it. Face your greatest flaws. Clenching his jaw, Jake moved forward, bringing Chloe with him. We have to see it, he murmured, determined. Together. With a glance, they pushed the door open, stepping into an abyss. Inside, their worst fears loomed, cloaked in memories of harsh words and failures. Against the wall stood figures that looked like them but wore expressions of anguish and despair. Every accusation that had ever wounded sunk into his heart. You'll never be enough. Hissed the shadow that echoed his father's voice. You're destined to fail. Another screamed, mimicking friends who had turned away. Chloe recalled, pain flickering across her features. "No!" Jake shouted, stepping forward. "I want to let you take us. We've risen above this." Chloe's courage shone as she squeezed his hand tighter. "We know who we truly are. Our past doesn't define us." The shadows crackled with rage, swirling around them as if the room could collapse. "You're alone," they jeered, taunting voices melding into a cacophony. "You can't escape what you are." "Together." Jake and Chloe shouted in unison, their voices intertwining in defiance. "We're not alone. Never alone." In that moment, energy surged from their hearts, breaking through the dark tendrils that sought to drown them. The figures fled, turmoil erupting as they dissolved into flashes of brilliant light that danced around them. The cloaked figure screamed as if his very essence was being unraveled. The shadows recoiled in agony, flickering, they spun into chaos but would not relent. Then something shifted. The laughter, the joy, and the strength that formed between them began to solidify, swirling like a protective barrier, illuminating the void. They stepped over the threshold of their memories, reclaiming the pieces they had lost. Jake's eyes hardened, and he squared his shoulders. "We will define our path. We fought for each other, and that matters more than pain." The shadows condensed, shape-shifting one last time, masking themselves as everything Jake and Chloe had ever feared. Terrifying faces rushed at them, clawing for remnants of hope. In an act of sheer defiance, Jake lunged, plunging into their depth. "You don't control us," he bellowed, pulling Chloe along as the darkness writhed. Brighter than ever, their love lit the way, pushing back against the consuming menace. As they fought, light grew, hollowing out shadows that shrieked in protest, lifting Jake and Chloe higher. With one final push, they found themselves breaking through a shimmering barrier, thrust into a world beyond fear. The energy exploded, scattering the shadows like ashes dissolved in the wind. The cloaked figure howled as the pulsating light enveloped them, pulling them into a realm that felt alive. Dazed, they landed on solid ground illuminated by radiant colors, a vast landscape of hope unveiled before them. The two stood hand in hand, hearts pounding, breathing rapidly. Around them, others began to emerge, the townsfolk, freed from the shadows. "What happened?" someone asked, voice quaking. Jake looked around, drinking in the relief painted across the faces he recognized. "When we fought our darkness together, we pulled you through, too." Chloe nodded, tears of joy glistening in her eyes. "We found strength in our unity. The trials blended our fears into hope. And now, look. We're together free. The darkness can't define us anymore." As the townsfolk began to grasp the vastness of hope washing over them, the air suddenly expanded, their burdens lifted, revealing clarity amidst the chaos. Laughter erupted, blending with tears, the darkness dissolving like a bad dream. Life surged once more through Millfield, now painted in vibrant colors as the fog receded entirely. The cloaked figure, nothing more than a fading shadow, stood defeated, its power vanishing. Light surged as Jake and Chloe shared a knowing smile, the burden of their fears lifted. "Together conquered the darkness," Jake exclaimed, echoing the sentiment that united everyone. "Together we can build a brighter future." As the light swirled around, amplifying hope in a town once plagued by despair, Jake tightened his hold on Chloe, grinning wide. They had faced the darkness. They had survived. As Millfield welcomed its dawn, peace settled over the town. They had learned that the deepest shadows couldn't consume them, not when love bound them as one. Now, let us keep that light shining bright. You need to subscribe now so you don't miss any of our unfolding stories. Smash the like button now to feed the algorithm momentum. Flood the comments section below with your reactions and theories about this ending. What do you think next for Jake and Chloe? Instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see how unity can overcome darkness. Don't wait even one more second to show your support.